let's get going. I'm excited to be here, and it's just an honor and a pleasure to present with Dr. Sarah Korpi here, to Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Director, Academic Planner at the University of Wisconsin, Madison. And I'm Bill Davis, Lead Faculty Assistant Professor here in the Ford School of Business and Technology. Next slide, please. Now about us, we're great colleagues, and we're on the Ideal board together. We have teamed up on many of these presentations, and it's just an absolute honor here to present with Sarah again. And I've known Sarah now, I think, for 4 years, and she has just led Ideal and done wonderful things, and this whole organization just continues to grow. So Sarah, thank you for being here. And next slide, please. Okay, the whole point of being here is the importance of communication. I just came from a panel on Deming's 14 points of quality and so forth. And one of the themes that was coming through was leadership and communication, right? So that we need to be able to communicate well. We need to be able to set the right tone, have the right nonverbals. There's 3 parts to any communication. There is a verbal part, a nonverbal, and paraverbal. How you speak, how you say it. Three. That's the 3 types. And then 3 parts of any communication is the content part, the tone, and then the content, tone, and then the additional content you bring. That one just slipped my mind here, but I'll come back to that. But anyway, what I wanted to tell you is how important these NACE competencies are to students, to ourselves, to redo these. As we look at active learning, it's a process of doing and observing and dialogue with self and others. And, when you're communicating, people are listening, they're watching. So you want to make sure you've got those 3 areas in place here. The verbal, nonverbal, and paraverbal. You want to make sure you're relating well in both your oral and written communication. But go ahead and go to the next slide. Now, here's how NACE defines communication. Articulate thoughts and ideas clearly and effectively in written and oral forms to persons inside and outside the organization. The individual has public speaking skills, is able to express ideas to others, and can write and edit memos, letters, complex technical reports clearly and effectively. And, people learn to communicate on the job, off the job, and through the job. So, they're learning in their professional careers and they're learning in their academic careers, but it all comes together. And the more that we fine tune and we become good communicators, good things happen, good results happen, quality occurs. Next slide, please. Okay, today's purpose, I'm going to turn this over to Sarah now, and she's going to take the next few slides and bring it back to me. So Sarah, the floor is yours.
All right, great. Thanks so much, Bill. Well, I'm just going to highlight, I'm a language teacher by training. I always like to tell people where we're going so when we get there. So today we're going to talk a little bit about communication, the importance of good communication, the communication process. I'm going to talk a little bit about communication issues, and then different communication medias, whether face-to-face, spoken, personal address, and then touch on ethics and trust a bit. And then toward the end, we're going to highlight examples of how these things apply in business and in the online classroom. So I said I was a language teacher. I always like to start with definition of terms. That way we all know what we're talking about. So what is communication? It is the activity of conveying information. So the word has a Latin root that means to share. So basically it involves a sender, a message, and a receiver. Now, effective communication is something else. Effective communication is the ability to convey information to another effectively and efficiently. So business managers with good verbal, nonverbal, and written communication skills really help facilitate the sharing of information between people within a company and for its commercial benefit. So just to highlight the communication process, so messages are transmitted over a medium to a receiver. The medium is really the pathway over which the message is transmitted. For example, it could be the telephone, it could be a written note, it could be email. It could be spoken words. The receiver is the person who gets the message. Now, an important part of the communication process is actually feedback. So feedback from the receiver informs the sender that the message is understood, or that it has not been understood and must be resent. Some communication issues that can happen, verbal communication, when the encoding of messages into words is either written or spoken, sometimes maybe the encoding, the words used, aren't clear to both the sender and the receiver, and this can really lead to some confusion and communication issues, right? There's also nonverbal communication, which is the encoding of messages by means of facial expressions, body language, styles of dress. Nonverbal communication is part of the message that is sent. And when the message and the nonverbal communication, when the verbal and nonverbal communication do not mesh, when they're not in alignment, that can result in confusion and communication issues as well. All right, so the role of perception and communication is also extremely important. So senders and receivers communicate based on their subjective perceptions. Okay, so it's not the message that was sent or how it was sent, but rather how it was received that really impacts how that message is understood. Subjective perception can lead to bias and stereotypes that can interfere with effective communication. Now, effective managers know that they can avoid communications based on biases and stereotypes by the way that they formulate the communication itself. And I'm going to hand things over to Bill, who's going to talk us through things managers can do to communicate more effectively. You're on mute, Bill.
Boy, I'm not communicating too well. I'm on mute. A little humor there. What I would like to say is, I missed a piece there when I was presenting before, and it just came to the surface of my brain. Three types of communication: verbal, nonverbal, and paraverbal. And then the three parts to any communication are content part, the feeling, the tone, and then the relational part that people feel they want to hear you. They know you're interested in talking to them. So you care and you want that connection. So, and people pick up on that, nonverbal communication. I just want to add this is, and I've seen different research on this. It could be up to 65, 70%, 75% nonverbal. That's what is being picked up. Your sound of your voice, your facial expressions, your mannerisms, all of that transfers. So you want to be aware of that as you're communicating more effectively, because when you look at perception, being in sales and marketing my whole career, we always used to say, it's either real or perceived. Consumers want your product or service. They may have a perception, they may have an objection, which is just a question or concern, but they have a perception, maybe based on your organization, based on the price of the product, based on what their perceived value is, but remember, perception is important. So there we go with that. And I'm off mute, so I'm going pretty good right now after coming back from that panel. But communicating more effectively, managers in their teams can become effective communicators by select an appropriate medium for each message. There's no best medium. We all have different DNA. Everyone's different. Everybody has different learning styles. And I have to tell you, sometimes I can hear it, read it in a book, but sometimes I'll get much, much more. For example, Pamela Reyes is in the ear from assessment. And when I had to do my program review, I had a little fear there. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen? How much will this take? And Pam Reyes, with her facial expressions of welcoming tone and we're glad you're here, and her smile, and then also just the way she spoke and guided. And she just demonstrated that you're going to be okay. We're going to work together as a team. Our team is here to support you. Let's get this going. That lifted me. But not only through Zoom, but through one-on-one, through phone calls. Pick the medium's going to work for you. There's no best medium. Considering information richness, the amount of information a medium can carry. If you really want to have a conversation with someone, the least rich one is email. So it's, well, I've solved that. Sarah didn't get that done right away, so I just sent her an email. Well, that might not totally fix the problem. It might be a situation, or maybe it's not a problem. Maybe it's something, it's an ask that we want more of. But if I get Sarah to give me 10 minutes, and we've got the face there, and we're able to talk it through, and we kind of agree on the points, much richer. That is a great medium to choose. But again, you can think about your own examples, but consider whether a paper path or electronic trail is needed to provide documentation and communication. Do you want to inundate someone with a lot of different email? Maybe that's not effective, or attachments, but pick your spots. Next slide, please. Now, face-to-face again. I've talked about this, richest communication. You get to read my nonverbals right here. And I've even put my jacket on here to look professional so you can see that I care. And hopefully you see everything is well, not perfect, but I'm not doing too bad. Hopefully on a scale of 1 to 10, I hope I get an 8. But anyway, you get instant feedback, right? Because you can see how I'm relating. Next one, please. Spoken communication electronically transmitted has a second highest information richness. Now, a lot of this stuff already. We know that you know this, right? But what we're doing here is enhancing your knowledge. Maybe we're refreshing your knowledge. If you walk away, now let's tie this to active learning a second, because that's what this conference is about, is learning theories. Active learning is the process of doing and observing dialogue with self and others. It's been my teaching platform, Baumwell and Eisen, since I started teaching. And you have to be aware of that dynamic. So when you're talking to students, for example, what's the best way to communicate with them? I have so much success doing a one-on-one Zoom session if someone's struggling. If I see that they're stuck, they need a little encouragement, a little help, a little coaching, a little modeling, let me connect with you for 30 minutes. Are you free Thursday? What time's good? Boom, we get it done. They feel good. I feel good, because I'm here for them, right? Our mission is to empower, support, enrich, and graduate every student. I mean, that's what it's all about. Relating, communicating. Telephone conversations are information rich with the tone of voice. You don't get the verbal, you just get the voice. And the sender's emphasis of quick feedback, but provide no visual, nonverbal cues. Next slide, please. Okay, personally addressed written communication. Lower richness than the verbal forms of communication, but still directed at a given person. Personal addressing helps ensure receiver actually reads the message, does not provide instant feedback, right? You got to wait for the feedback. But if we're talking, we kind of get a feel, right? We know, hey, they like that. And I'll tell you, I'm going to throw a little plug out here for Toastmasters. If you're not in our Toastmasters organization, you should be. Dr. Wendy Conway has gone above and beyond to make all that happen, pulling us all together, collaborating, communicating. And we practice in those bi-weekly meetings. We tune up, we fine tune, we get a visual, but we're able to do all of these things. And we understand the written piece, but I just wanted to say that on Wendy's behalf and Toastmasters, that it's a fine organization and it's enhancing my skills and my ability. Now, but email, excellent for complex messages, requesting follow-up actions. Just remember, the sweetest word to any person is their name, right? So if I'm writing something to Sarah, I might say, Sarah, when is that meeting going to occur? Now, I might already have that relationship built with her in that tone. But if I was to just say, when's the meeting? Of course, you're hearing my verbal now, but my point is, when's the meeting? Is it Thursday? You said this. And then or maybe I put caps and I shouted or something. Changes the dynamic a little bit, right? Doesn't keep the whole ebb and flow going as smooth as it should. Let's go to the next slide. And Sarah, I think I got one more, and I turn it over to you, right? Am I correct? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Impersonal written communication and that's what I was just talking about, has the lowest information richness. I'm a people person. I like relating with people, the relationships. I'm a team player. I believe in leading and coaching. Sarah's always said, that's my strength in a deal. Give them an idea, coach them through the continuum. Been doing it my whole life from the baseball field on to here. But the point is, we want people to win, right? We want students to graduate, right? We want to support them, enrich. But remember how you communicate to them. So I'm just using it in that context. Andre, you know a lot of this too from what you're dealing with, but can you imagine you say, well, you're not turning in your paper versus maybe a little more explanation or some couching or positioning and the message a little better. We need to be sensitive to that. Remember, 3 parts: standing communication, content part, the tone, and then the relational part. People need to see that we care. Students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I've heard that again and again and again. We got to care, we got to connect, but yet we got to get them to the goal. Okay. Sarah, next slide, please.
Great. Thanks so much, Bill. Well, I've got some email suggestions for all of us. So email is a great communication medium. It allows telecommuting employees to work from home and keep in contact, for example. And thanks to the pandemic, everyone has had the opportunity, well, not everyone, but a lot of folks have had the opportunity to experience telecommuting. The use of email is really growing rapidly, and there is some specific email etiquette that is expected. Now, I have said this to some people that I coach quite often. When you type messages in all caps, it is seen as screaming at the receiver. So although you may intend to add some additional enthusiasm or emphasis, oftentimes people on the receiving end of that communication will feel like they're being yelled at. Punctuation in your messages is really important for easy reading. And then paying attention to spelling and really treating email messages like a written letter. These are all best practices and email etiquettes that will really help people be able to read the message that you're sending and not get distracted by the way that the communication is being done. Now, communication networks are extremely helpful as well. Communication networks are pathways along which information flows in groups and throughout an organization. So the choice of communication network used, it really depends on the nature of the group's tasks and the extent to which group members need to communicate with each other to achieve group goals. I had an attempt at setting up a Google group for a nonprofit association that I'm on the board for. That particular communication network did not work because I was the only one who knew how to use it. And it wasn't really needed because everyone could just email everyone else, kind of reply all and away you go, right? There are some other communication networks that are really great for larger groups or people that need to be in more contact. For example, Microsoft Teams is a tool that some institutions use that really allows individuals and teams easy communication networks that keep you out of the email and really engaging with your colleagues. So picking the right communication network for the situation, really key for success. I'm going to kind of move us toward communication skills for managers. So when a manager is the sender of a communication, it's really important that managers send clear and complete messages, that they encode messages in symbols that the receiver understands. Remember, it's not about you, it's about the receiver. Select a medium that is appropriate for the message and one that is monitored by the receiver, right? So I can send a Teams chat to Bill all day, but he's not connected to me in Teams, so he's not going to get it, right? So I got to select the medium that is monitored by the receiver. Avoid filtering or holding back information, and avoid distortion as the message passes through other workers. And then include a feedback mechanism in the message so that you can receive feedback from your, did people really get the message that I was sending, or do I need to clarify. And it's so super important to provide accurate information, because as a manager, when you provide accurate information, this avoids rumors, and rumors are just terrible for the organization, and really can slow a bunch of different things down, cause a lot of problems. So Bill, I'm going to hand things off to you here to talk about skills for managers when managers are the receivers of information.
Okay, and there we go. Now, managers as receivers, they pay attention to what is sent as a message. They're good listeners. They don't interrupt. You want to give people their voice and listen. And then you also want to make sure you're aware of the signals you send, right? I mean, somebody, a good example is when I would train one-on-one and coach and new managers coming in my past career, or even, sometimes today, if somebody might have a little fear or they're not moving as fast as they could or whatever, I'm not going to push them. I'm going to pull them, but they might be worrying. They might say, well, I don't want to break this, or I don't want this to happen, or I'm afraid of this. When I used to hear that at Pepsi, people would say to me, oh, but I'm just afraid that machine isn't going to work, and we just installed it. And if I really thought they did a super job, I would say, well, everything I see looks very, very good, right? I'd relate that tone. I'd come back. I say, I see it as good. Hey, I said, remember this. I said, if a doctor's on a table makes a mistake, somebody could have a health issue, maybe for, not make it or something, right? I mean, that's serious. You got to be right there, right? If somebody is sending a NASA shuttle up to the moon or to go around in space, you want to be right? You want to communicate there. But, if we make a mistake, and this was my humor, somebody goes home thirsty, right? We come back the next day and we fix the problem. So consider the context is what I'm saying as a manager. Understand the degree of the situation, how important it is. Don't overreact, but make sure that you're paying attention to what's sent. Be a good listener. Read their body language, their verbal communication, their nonverbals. Good leaders understand the context and culture and the situations they lead in. Right? We're all here for a reason. We're here to serve students. We're here to make some good things happen. Ask questions to clarify your understanding. You don't have to make them so structured. It could just be, hey, well, where did we start? For example, if I've gone to Sarah many times with questions, and I might say, I don't understand this. Can you help me see how this conference will have this award given, and what's that process look like? She takes those questions as a manager, in that particular context. And she clarified, Bill, are you thinking the awards won't go as planned? Or are you thinking that maybe we need more controls? Or she clarifies that with questions. She's empathetic, being empathetic, trying to understand what the sender feels. You do have to have empathy. You have to have empathy for students. You have to have empathy for your colleagues, people. Life happens sometimes. It's not always easy, right? And then the empathy and showing compassion. When you show compassion, you go to get involved and give them a solution, right? Hey, well, let me, kind of like a life coach. Hey, I think you got this. I don't think you got anything to worry. I think you're going on the right track. You make good decisions. So I feel what you're saying, but I really think you're right there. Here's why. Now, when you start communicating like that, you change the dynamic, right? You lift people. But understand linguistic styles, different people speak differently, right? Speed, tone, pausing, all impact communications. Remember I told you 3 types of communication: verbal, nonverbal, paraverbal. You know what paraverbal is? It's the speed. You can speed it up and make it fast to get your point across, and you can pause so they digest it, right? But know how you speak. Know what your tendencies are. If I want to lead and coach and lift someone, I might use a little speed. I just had the pleasure and privilege to present with Holly Orso, who won the award of the deal for the course award. And congratulations, Holly. But I had so much fun. She knows so much more stuff than I know in the area of math and algebra and all that stuff that I just, if I have a question, I go to Holly, right? And And my point is, Holly communicates so well to me. Holly reinforces, she takes my message and she says, well, I see where you're at. Well, let me see. Well, what is your thought on this? Well, and then she speeds it up. And I'm telling you, she's absolutely incredible. And she teamed up with her team there. They put a great course through. So remember, take these tips as receivers, managers. Remember, people are just an absolute most important resource on your team. Next slide, please. Now, good communication, increased efficiency, and new technologies and skills. Tune up your skills. I've gotten, I don't know, B+ with the Zoom technology, right? Couldn't do it maybe 5 years ago when Kate Johnson was teaching us and stuff. I'm better now. I mean, I could do it then, but I'm much better today thanks to all the coaching and everything that everybody's given me and in practice, right, on the job, through the job training. Improve quality of products and services. You can improve your service, right? You can improve your service to your students, to your colleagues. You can talk to Andre and say, hey, I really enjoyed you being on my panel. Can I get 15 minutes with you Tuesday morning? Sure can. Now we're talking about a student issue. The next thing you know, we were in some Zoom room and we both felt each other. We both were on the same page. We connected because of technology, and it increased the responsiveness to the customers, our students, our colleagues. More innovation through communication. Remember, I used to have a saying at Pepsi, a lot of you ever email me, I usually get you the response almost the same day, right? And let me tell you, well, not within an hour usually, but I have one saying I used to have with my teams: don't procrastinate, communicate, right? I mean, let's keep the thing going, the progress, the communication. I'll tell you, we communicate. Diane and I are on the Chronicle team, and I mean, what a wonderful, wonderful team. Jackie Bullis, Haley Pessner, Sally. I mean, unbelievable, the communication. Next, please. Okay, ethics. Now, let me say something about ethics. You got to ground yourselves, right? I have embraced the definition of ethics throughout my whole managerial and academic career. And here it is: a system or code of conduct based on moral and legal duties and obligations. I keep that right here. When I'm executing, when I'm communicating, when I'm leading, do the right things that make you comfortable, that you know that they're right, not discomforting. Don't go out there and look for shortcuts. Quality is so important, but think ethically, communicate honestly. All true are, what you communicate involve in all relevant information. Don't hold something back. I mean, if it's something strategic, shouldn't be communicated, you got to protect that. But the point I'm making, if we can help a situation and say I'm talking to Wendy or Diana or Pam or something, hey, and here's why I'm bringing that point up, and here's the piece I wanted to show you too, rather than withhold that, because I might get some great feedback there that's going to just improve it. But involve all relevant information. Make sure what you're communicating is true and accurate. Don't try to motivate somebody with, well, if you don't do this, this could happen and the computers could blow up. That's not true. Why would I do, again, that's a real far-fetched example, but the point that I'm trying to make to you: communicate true and accurate information. Avoid language that manipulates, discriminates, or exaggerates. Treat people with respect, mutual respect. The definition of respect is the degree of indifference that you show a person, object, thing, whatever. Show people they matter. Show people you're on the same page. Communicate across. Don't talk down. Communicate up, across, and in the organization. Be effective. Be ethical communicators. Next slide, please. Okay, this is one that I just totally believe in. I've been following this my whole career. Everything lives and dies on trust. You got to build trust a piece at a time. When it crumbles all at once, right? But trust is so important in effective relationships. Now, when we would go out and want to partner with organizations or the Chicago Cubs or go over here, whatever, you're out in a marketplace or you're over here in the Quad Cities and you're dealing with different customers and hospitals and different people you're doing business with as partners, right? You want to build trust. You want them to know you're honest, you're competent, you understand the business, you understand their situation. You want to be dependable, right? You want to show dependability. You want to be reliable. If they give you your trust, their trust, you want to dot the I, cross the T, follow through, right? And then likability. Those 5 dimensions of trust are so important. Don't forget them. I'm telling you, be dependable, be reliable, be likable. You know, I used to meet people in my career, so I don't care if everybody likes me. Well, I do, because things go so much easier. I mean, when you've got rapport, right? You've got relationships, right? You've got relationship marketing. But remember, be honest, competent, dependable, reliable, likable, open communication, common goals, commitment to mutual gain. You know, we're all out there for the greater good, right? The utilitarianist ethic, you know, act in the greater good of all, and then organizational support. But there's the foundation for trust. And Sarah, I hope I didn't steal this slide from you, because I know we divided them up. But I think we both feel the same way about trust. Okay, you can't grow without trust. Next slide.
Absolutely.
Next slide. Okay. Sarah and I thank you, Dr. Sarah and I thank you so much for listening. Our hope is that you take away a chunk or two from this particular presentation. You know, chunking is an active learning technique. I used to tell the students all the time on ground, I said, chunk it. They said, what do you mean chunk it? I said, chunk it. Active learning, process of doing and observing. Chunking is strictly taking those pieces out of this that you think can help you the most. You won't use all of this. But if you walk away with a couple of chunks and they make a difference, Sarah and I have succeeded. We've paid it forward. We've done it right. So continue to grow and learn. Sarah, do you have any closing words?
Oh, just, thank you so much for being here today. Really effective communication. It's a passion of mine. Like I said, I'm a language teacher. Really important to build trust. And I hope that you found something in the presentation that you can take with you and say, I'm going to try that. It's going to make me a more effective communicator.